You're living your dream life. You're an NBA player. You've just signed your second max deal in your career. It's just another training session. It's on a Tuesday. You finish up, jump in your car, drive home, and in one of the intersections, some drunk guy smashes into you, door side, completely knocks you out, breaks your shoulder, knocks you out. That basically was the end of Chandler Parsons' career right there. He retired in 2020. I didn't know any of this. I was watching a piece on him today, and as soon as I saw his name, I thought, man, I haven't seen him for a long time. What happened to him? That's exactly what happened to him. He was playing for Atlanta Hawks at the time, had a training session, was driving home, and some drunk dude smashed into him, busted him up, smashed his shoulder. He's got neck problems. And that was basically the last nail in the coffin of a career that basically involved a lot of injuries, a lot of knee surgeries. He came in with quite a lot of promise. Like I said, he signed 2 max contracts in his time. I mostly remember him when he played for Houston Rockets. When they had that Dwight Howard and James Harden and all them. That's what I remember him by. But I remember him having a whole bunch of injuries, and then this happened, and it just made me think, man, it can all be taken away from you in a blink of an eye. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are, man. We have to cherish the moments that we're in. So even if you're, having a bad session or whatever and training's not going well, just be grateful that you're doing it. Be grateful that you have the opportunity. You're being blessed with the opportunity to do what you do. I think it's not normal for us to think about these kind of scary moments, but you never know, man. Like, if you look at the statistics, man, lots of people have lots of bad things happen to them, man. I'm somebody that thinks about, life and death on a regular basis. So, this is not too far away from home for me in terms of, my psyche and how I think about everything. But when I heard his story, I thought, man, that sucks. I mean, the guy's, obviously well taken care of. He's earned lots of money in his career and he's fine. But I don't think it's about the money for some of these guys. He retired at 31, he had, I would say he probably had another very good 2-3 years of his career, he's just lucky to survive the incident. Sometimes you have these days where you're like, oh man, blah, 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 whatever, nothing's going right. But, I'm sure the guy we're talking about, Chandler Parsons, he would love to have a bad day, in the gym rather than a bad day on the freaking road. So I thought that was interesting to think about. The last few days I've kind of been all beat up. The rack pulls that I did, 3 days ago really beat me up, man. I've spoken about this before. It's something about posterior chain movements, especially if, you've done for a bit of volume, that really takes the hell out of me. But, I thought about it last few days, and I'm like, they cost a lot. Basically, they take a lot of recovery points, a lot. But I think those recovery points are well spent. You can't freaking buy a Ferrari for $2, man. So it only makes sense that, these recovery points that we have in our bank are supposed to be spent, right? We're supposed to make investments, smart investments, which are going to, down the track, lead to more recovery points, I suppose, and more fitness and more strength and more everything. So I don't think we should hold these recovery points close to our chest and kind of keep looking left and right and be like, no, stay away. I think we should be looking to spend them and invest them really well. And so I think these rack pulls, I think they are a good investment. My whole posterior chain gets beat up by them. I need my whole posterior chain to squat and deadlift and whatnot. So my traps and my lats are very sore from this simple movement, which is essentially a isometric contraction when it comes to doing a rack pull. Like the shoulder girdle is not going up and down or whatever. I'm just holding a position really tightly. Same with the erectors and, traps and all that stuff. I like the way it makes me feel. And frankly, I think I like the way it makes me look. My traps have kind of popped out a little bit. I feel fuller in my kind of shoulder girdle. The rhomboids are one of the sorest points of my back. These rhomboids are like these muscles, basically, which are shoulder girdle retractions, like scapular retractors. That's a cool muscle to have, man. I remember I used to get all these knots and things in the rhomboid. So like I remember trying to do, band pull aparts, face pulls, rows this way, that way, and every which way, and never really could get them as well as this. I mean, this is proper DOMS. So I think these rack pulls are very specific to my goals. And yes, they cost a lot, but I reckon I'll continue doing them. Same with the RDLs. The RDLs are, a great option as well. The reason why I'm kind of opting out for rack pulls at the moment is because it stops. There's a dead stop, and I need to get contraction and tightness again. And I think that's important. That's really, really important to do, because it mimics a deadlift. A lot of people train deadlifts for reps and they bounce the damn thing off the floor. And so in a set, they basically only get one quality repetition, which is going to improve the max deadlift, because, a lot of people say, oh, my second and third rep are better. That's because you have basically stored potential energy. You're bouncing that thing, you're doing touch and go. Yes, there's benefit to that as well, without a doubt, just like RDLs. But I think there's more value in coming to a halting stop, taking another breath, embracing again, and training that ritual of gaining tension again. Because ultimately, like Julian said to me in the comments, which kind of led to all of this, Julian is a subscriber that kind of sparked this idea. Core strength in powerlifting and any sort of strength movement that we do with the barbell, yeah, we call it abs, we call it core, we call it all these things, but essentially it's our ability to create tension in our core. That's what it is. And so, yes, you're training your core muscles, when you're doing some of these touch and go movements, RDLs and touch and go deadlifts, but we're not really practicing the ritual involved in performing the actual movements which we want. 1 rep, squat, 1 rep, deadlift. So I'm going to keep them in the mix. Definitely. I think it's a really, really cool way to go about it. Another thing today that I did, which I didn't record, frankly, I didn't think I was going to do anything with it, but I jumped on the leg press today as well. Basically, I was thinking along the lines of, okay, so I'm kind of doing everything in the posterior chain really well, like the rack pulls are taking care of all of that. But I started wondering about the off the floor leg portion of the lift. So I said in the last few videos that the rack pulls will train the core to get you out of the kind of off the floor, kind of in a more explosive way, because you're training that core tightness. And also it hammers the hell out of the upper back as well, and that also carries over to the floor. But the legs, the quads, I thought about, what's one way I can train, that part of the deadlift without actually costing a lot of recovery points. And so I kind of looked it up and I was kind of reading about all these different things, and I came across an article and I read it, and basically the guy said, he was talking about weak points in the squat and deadlift, and he basically said, off the floor, he was describing the certain lifters, and so he said, if you are weak off the floor, one of the things that's going to be beneficial for you is hack squats, Bulgarian split squats, leg press, pause front squats, all these types of things. And I thought about all these things, and I thought, let me give the leg press a shot. And I worked up to 4 plates, and it felt really good. It felt really, really good. So I might tinker with leg press as well in the coming days, mess around with that, and then see how I can kind of essentially train the leg press. Because the guy basically explained, which I think I agree with, the deadlift is essentially a standing leg press. And if you think about it, that kind of makes sense, because the first part of the deadlift is in fact a push. If you are pulling off the floor, you are not using the correct technique. You're supposed to be wedging yourself between the bar and the floor, and that cue, that mental cue is the right thing to have. You're kind of like leg pressing away. You're leg pressing at least the first portion. Then at the top, it's basically just a hip thrust. So I think it's beneficial to think about movements in that sense. And so when I was doing the leg press today, I was actually positioning my feet exactly how I would have them in the deadlift. And I was like, okay, do that. And so the next part of the article, he was talking about squats. And he basically described exactly my problem. So when I'm going in a squat, I come down, I come out of the hole really strong, and then there's like a sticking point, kind of around the 90-degree knee bend. Really, really slows down, and then I get over that kind of little hump, and then at the top I explode up. and the bar's kind of jumping off my back like I've just freaking smashing the hell out of the bar. So that, middle portion, he goes, it's also the quads. So he named on 2 separate occasions 2 scenarios that describe me really well. And so I thought, that's a pretty consistent viewpoint, that on both lifts, quads are the ones that are lacking. Now, I know, I hear you guys. How can you have freaking weak quads if you'll be squatting all this time? That's kind of like saying, how can you're a top 10 tennis player in the world. How do you not have a really good net game? Man, I just hit it from the baseline, and I'm really good at the baseline, and I just send people running, and that's how I am top 10. So you could be a tennis player, and you could do whatever the hell you want. There's many ways to kind of get the job done. Same with the squat. You can squat basically removing an entire freaking body part out of it, or favor another body part. So when I squat, all of you guys have mentioned it, and I've certainly thought about this as well. I tend to lean over a lot, even for a high bar squat. And the bar path is essentially pretty straight, but the bar kind of falls on the balls of my feet and not so much in the middle of my foot, sometimes even at the toes. And so I have this tendency to use my posterior chain. And we know that because I'm bent over and the weight's on my toes. So I thought, okay, let's run with this idea. And I know Chad Wesley Smith kind of said the posterior chain is very good indicator that if you can grind a squat out, you have really strong posterior chain. And so I'm trying to get all these kind of viewpoints and kind of roll it up into the one dish. And so I think, doing the leg press, like the guy says, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it could benefit me, and it's very, very cheap, I feel. There's no spinal loading. There's no anything. It's not like a very expensive movement, kind of like a Bulgarian split squat that's freaking hammering the hell out of your hip girdle, and it's so damn challenging, even with the smallest amount of weight. So I thought leg press, you're just freaking sitting there chilling out. Why not? Let's do it. And I had a pretty good kind of feedback today from the leg press. It felt pretty good, man. I felt the quads. I felt the adductors, and I was doing my absolute best to kind of keep my butt on the bench. I was like arching my back, kind of basically mimicking like I was squatting. Not letting kind of that lower back round up and curl up the damn thing. So that's where I'm at. I think the rack pulls are going to stay, even though they're absolutely killing me and they are a massive recovery cost. I think it's a good investment. This is why today I failed at 260. I don't know if you guys, if you saw the lifts today, everything was going good. 220, left the ground really smoothly and all that. With the 260, I felt like the core wasn't there. And obviously last few days I've trained the core. But I would push and I would feel like my core losing tension. So in all of this, man, I'm doing basically sit-ups a whole bunch, weighted sit-ups. I did those side plank things with bent knee and straight leg. So I've been doing a lot of different things, and finally it's costing me. It's costing the top end strength. The rack pulls are actually today. The rack pulls, instead of doing 3x3, I did 4x3, and that felt easier. But man, I don't know, man. Like, just sore everywhere, and I think that soreness has kind of built up. So it's been. I'm hoping to do it 3 times a week, but I think that's too much. Maybe two times a week is the best thing for rack pulls. But today after the gym, it's a day off from work. I go home around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I had some food, man. I went for a nap. I haven't had a middle of the day nap like this without work causing it for a very long time. Just freaking beat up, man. These rack pulls are no joke. Such a difficult thing to do, man. So I'll continue that. I'll continue playing with leg presses, and I'll see what happens. But overarching all of this is this idea that to not take anything for granted. Even the bad days, man. Even the bad days. Even the moments where you're kind of trying to work things out and you're not kind of doing wonderful things in the gym or whatever. Just never forget, man. We are blessed, man, that we're even talking about these things, man. We are essentially talking about which color Ferrari do we want. That's what we're talking about. We have the ability to go to the gym and train, man. Whether you're doing leg press, rack pull, Bulgarian split squats, machines, this, that, bench press, whatever you're doing, man, All we're talking about is what color Ferrari do we want. That's what we're talking about, because that's how blessed we are. We have the privilege of training. And I take this very seriously, man. Like this is an incredible gift. We are healthy, we're lucky. Because just like that, man, Chandler Parsons, man, got collected on a freaking intersection. And, now he's talking about like his body's back to kind of, good level. But his mental is not there. Like he's still dealing with processing. It's a freaking traumatic event. And also after all of this, man, like he ended up in a massive lawsuit, which took like 2 years to solve. That dude that hit him is a drunk. And he's been done for, driving under the influence many times over. But because he hit a very, very rich NBA player, he decided to sue him. Now, this dude hit him. He ran the red light. And now apparently there was a payout and he got something out of it. A substantial payout. So, man, I don't understand how these legal systems work, man. I honestly don't, man. It's such a head scratcher, man. If you got money, man, if you're somebody, basically there's a bunch of sharks around you to get you, because everyone's got something to gain from getting involved with a rich guy, even if you freaking screw up and it's a crazy world. But what Chandler Parsons teaches me from his experiences, don't take this thing for granted, man. You never know what can happen in life, and certainly I work in emergency, man. I see lots of unfortunate people coming in with all sorts of things, and it's a crazy world, man. One day you're good, the next day you're freaking on your deathbed. One day you're scoring 18, 19 points a game, contributing to a team, and then one day after a training session, some guy freaking collects you, almost kills you outright. So I think it's really, really important for us to just recalibrate our thinking sometimes. I find myself thinking about all this stuff all the time, but what exercise, how to break things down, how to move forward, all these things. I'm blessed, man. And there's many different programs out there you can do, and there's something for everyone when it comes to training or whatever. I squat every day because I love this stuff. This is such a big component of my life, of my well-being, of my health, mental, physical, spiritual, all that. And the fact that I can just come in and do this thing, whether it's the best thing to do every day or not, that's besides the point. This is my video game. This is my character. I'm trying to level him up, and that's all I care about, man. And honestly, man, it's a freaking blessing. It's a blessing. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, I spent a lot of time in this thing, man. I spent a lot of freaking time doing this. If I don't know myself and I'm just looking from the outside in, I would say, man, this guy loves this shit. And I do. It's a very big part of my life. And now that I think about my life and where we're at as a family, I've got my family and everything I need to do for them. And the very next thing is training, man. That's all I really got, man. Family, friends, and then it's training. I don't do anything else, man. And I love it that way. I used to be into cars and tweaking with cars and spending money on cars, going from shop to shop, car shop to car shop, do this, do that, go for cruises around the hills here in Adelaide, and all of these things, go for cruises this way, that way. I've completely let go of this. Like this Evo 7, I'm actually sitting in it right now and doing this voiceover. Like it's a, don't get me wrong, I love these cars, I love everything about them, and the JDM world and all that. But I haven't really done anything to the car for a long time, and that's because of training. I get all of my joy, all of my fulfillment from training. The squat every day is basically taken over my free time. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the Evo 7. Sometimes I think, should I do the next steps and, put the cams in and exhaust manifold and get it retuned and get a bit more power out of it. I just can think to myself, that all sounds good, but I don't really want to go for cruises, man. I don't really want to do anything with it. And I don't really want to risk, a breakdown or whatever. I just want something that goes and doesn't cause me trouble. And, I don't want to spend time in the freaking car shop, the time I could be spending thinking about what I love to do, and that's squatting and how to get better and the deadlifting, all that stuff. So it's just interesting. It's interesting what this means to me. And it's moments like these when I hear stories of other people talking about their passions, all of that stuff and how easily it can be taken away. Just interesting sometimes to kind of step back and think about everything and think about where you are on the map and how far you've come. I think it's important for us to have those moments. But anyway, guys, appreciate everyone. Thank you everyone for the continual support. I'm going to try and get some comments in the next few days. I've got a few days off. Continue on the conversation, continue brainstorming and helping each other out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.